Jason Statham leaned against the cool metal of his car, the city's neon lights casting shimmering reflections on his rugged features. At first glance, he epitomized the archetype of an action hero. Tough, determined, and ready to take on anything that crossed his path. Yet beneath that seasoned exterior lay a man grappling with the weight of his past. A past filled with missed opportunities and regrets that lingered like shadows in his mind. Once a promising talent in the world of professional combat sports, Jason had walked away from it all, believing that life outside the ring would bring him peace. However, the reality was starkly different. Each day, he found himself battling not just external enemies but the demons of his decisions. Relationships left fragmented and dreams of a quieter life slowly crumbling. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A reminder of a life still tethered to danger and unpredictability. It was a familiar call from his old friend Tom, urging him to take on another job. "You know how it is, mate," Tom had said with a hint of urgency. "We could use someone with your skills. This one's big." But Jason hesitated. The adrenaline rush that once thrilled him now felt like an obligation he was tired of meeting. He yearned for something more than just fights and high-stakes confrontations. He shifted his weight. The sound of laughter caught his attention from across the street. A group of young professionals celebrated the night away. Their carefree spirits, a stark contrast to Jason's brooding demeanor. He observed them for a moment, longing for the simple joys that had eluded him for so long. Then, his gaze fell upon a striking woman standing apart from the group, a captivating presence that immediately intrigued him. She possessed an aura of confidence mingled with mystery. Jason's instincts kicked in. He could sense trouble, yet he also felt an undeniable pull toward her. Little did he know that this chance encounter would lead him into a web of intrigue and danger, setting the stage for a conflict that would challenge his resolve like never before. The prospect of another job loomed over him. But as he watched the woman from afar, he began to imagine a different kind of risk, one that could either heal him or plunge him deeper into his own chaos. Jason stood there lost in thought. The laughter from the nearby group faded into the background, replaced by a sudden, electric tension in the air. The figure emerged from the shadows of the alleyway, her silhouette striking and confident. It was Claire. She made her way toward him with an easy grace, her dark hair falling around her shoulders, framing a face that was both alluring and enigmatic. "Quite the night, isn't it?" she said casually, her voice smooth yet laced with an undercurrent of something more serious. Jason felt a shiver run down his spine, a blend of intrigue and caution. He had encountered many people in his line of work, but there was something distinctly different about her, a magnetic presence that drew him in despite his instincts warning him to take a step back. "Can I help you?" he replied, attempting to maintain a nonchalant demeanor. Claire smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Actually, I think it's you who can help me," she said, stepping closer. "I know all about your past, the fights, the victories, and the things you'd rather forget." Her gaze locked onto his, and Jason felt exposed. As if she could see straight through to his innermost fears, he narrowed his eyes. "What do you want?" With a slight tilt of her head, she continued. "I have information that could ruin your reputation, secrets that could destroy everything you've built since leaving the ring." The gravity of her words hung heavily between them. Suddenly, the weight of his past loomed larger than ever. "What are you talking about?" he asked, trying to mask the unease creeping into his voice. "Let's just say I have my sources," she said cryptically. "But I'm not here to threaten you. I need your help on a job, a dangerous one." Jason's heart raced. He was being blackmailed by this captivating woman who had entered his life like a whirlwind. Yet amidst the tension and potential peril, he found himself inexplicably drawn to her. There was an allure in her confidence and a flicker of vulnerability that sparked his interest. Complications he had never anticipated but couldn't ignore, as much as he wanted to resist her demands. He sensed that this encounter was only the beginning of a tumultuous journey that would test, not only his skills, but also his heart. Jason steadied himself as Claire took a step closer, the cool night air thick with tension. Her expression shifted from playful to serious, and he could sense the shift in the atmosphere between them. "You see," she began, her voice lowering as if trying to create an intimate space amidst their hostile encounter. "I have a situation, a job, really, that demands your particular set of skills. He arched an eyebrow, curious yet cautious. What kind of job? Let's just say it involves retrieving something very valuable that's currently in the wrong hands, she explained, scanning their surroundings as if wary of prying eyes. It's not just about the money. There are lives at stake, including my own. The sincerity in her tone caught him off guard. Behind her calculated demeanor, there was a hint of vulnerability that he hadn't noticed before. Fear flickered in her eyes, and for a moment, Jason felt a pang of empathy. "And what makes you think I'd help you?" he challenged, trying to maintain his composure. "You have information on my past, so you think you can manipulate me into this?" Claire took a breath, her expression softening as if she were letting down her guard just a fraction. "I don't want to manipulate you," she said, her gaze steadying on his. "I'm desperate. Trust me. If I had any other option, I wouldn't be here doing this." Jason sensed her sincerity but couldn't help feeling cornered. The thought of uncovering hidden secrets gnawed at him. The very burden he sought to escape loomed like a dark cloud over their conversation. "What exactly do you know?" he asked cautiously. She leaned in closer, lowering her voice further. "I know about that fight, how it ended and who was involved." The implications of her words weighed heavily on him. That fight had been the breaking point in his career. Exposing it would destroy whatever fragile reputation he had rebuilt. He hesitated, weighing his options. The stakes felt impossibly high. Could he trust this woman who was pulling him back into the life he'd tried so hard to leave behind? Yet, as she locked eyes with him again, her vulnerability undeniable, he realized there was more to this than mere blackmail. Maybe their fates were intertwined in ways they could not yet comprehend. He could feel the pull toward her growing stronger. With every heartbeat, it became harder to resist the temptation of both danger and connection. The tension between Jason and Claire escalated as they began to prepare for the job. They met in a dimly lit warehouse, the scent of old metal and dust surrounding them, an ideal backdrop for their high-stakes operation. While Jason strategized and mapped out their plan, Claire watched him with a mix of admiration and apprehension. She could see the warrior instinct behind his cool composure, but she also sensed the conflict raging beneath the surface. "All right, we'll need to move fast," Jason said, his voice steady as he pointed to a blueprint spread across an old wooden table. "This is the layout of the building where they're keeping the item." Claire leaned in closer, her heart racing not just from adrenaline, but from the proximity to him. "What if they're waiting for us?" she asked, her brow furrowed in concern. Jason turned his gaze to her, meeting her eyes with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "Then we'll adapt," he replied, his tone both reassuring and firm. In that moment, she felt an unexpected warmth in their exchange, a recognition of mutual reliance. As they moved through the shadows later that night, stealth became paramount. Each step echoed in silence as they navigated through tight corners and darkened doorways. Suddenly, they found themselves cornered by a group of armed men. Jason's instincts kicked in. He pulled Claire behind him and launched into action. The fight that ensued was intense. Punches were thrown, bodies collided, and adrenaline surged through them both like electricity. Yet amid the chaos, glimpses of connection emerged. After all was said and done, Jason caught Claire's eye across the debris-strewn floor. The thrill of battle lay heavy in the air between them. But so did something deeper. "Nice moves," she said breathlessly. He smirked back at her, enjoying the fleeting lightness amidst the darkness surrounding them. "You're not so bad yourself." As they regrouped outside the building later that evening, breathing heavily from exertion and narrowly escaping danger, Claire turned to Jason with a sincere expression. "Thanks for having my back," she said softly. In that moment of vulnerability, he saw an openness in her that mirrored his own struggles, bodies battered yet spirits unbroken. Jason felt something shift within him. This partnership wasn't just about survival. It was becoming something more complicated and beautiful. As they plotted their next move under the stars, each glance held promises unspoken, of trust earned through trials faced together and a growing bond forged in fire. With every heartbeat, he realized that whatever lay ahead would challenge not just their skills, but their hearts as well. As the days passed, Jason found himself increasingly ensnared in a web of conflicting emotions. The adrenaline of their high-stakes job was intoxicating, Yet tangled with it was the undeniable attraction he felt toward Claire. Every glance they shared ignited sparks within him, drawing him closer despite the shadows lurking behind their connection. But beneath that allure lay a constant reminder of the precarious situation they were in. His reputation hung by a thread, and Claire's motivations felt more ambiguous than ever. During their downtime, while they meticulously planned each move, Jason couldn't ignore the nagging voice in his head. What if Claire's interest in him was merely a facade? Was he just another pawn in her game? He knew she was manipulating him. Her blackmail was a calculated tactic to ensure his cooperation. Yet as they strategized over blueprints and intel, he also sensed genuine moments of vulnerability in her. A softness that contradicted her hard exterior. It confused him further, making him question whether there was more to her than just a woman with secrets. One evening, as they sat on the rooftop of a dilapidated building overlooking the city skyline, she turned to him with an intensity that caught him off guard. "Do you ever regret it? Walking away from everything?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jason's heart raced at her inquiry. "Every day," he admitted, staring into the distance as memories flickered like ghosts through his mind. "Fights won and lost, relationships shattered, but I can't go back." Claire studied his face intently, as if searching for something deeper. "Neither can I," she replied quietly. The sadness in her eyes resonated with his own struggles and sparked an instinctive desire to protect her, a feeling that compounded his internal conflict. He was falling for her, but how could he trust someone who held such power over him? The stakes were impossibly high. One wrong move could lead to disaster for both of them. Yet every time she looked at him with those vulnerable eyes, or smiled in a way that lit up her face, he found himself wanting to believe in something more than just survival. Caught between desire and distrust, Jason understood that his feelings for Claire would complicate their mission. The tension between them became almost palpable. As they faced danger together, so too did they confront their growing emotions. An unpredictable mix of passion and peril that threatened to drown them both if they weren't careful. In those moments of quiet reflection amidst chaos, Jason realized that navigating this complicated relationship might be even more challenging than facing their enemies head-on. In the dim light of their makeshift planning room, Claire's facade began to crack. The adrenaline from their recent encounter was still coursing through her veins as she paced back and forth, her thoughts racing. Jason watched her closely, noting the tense lines on her face and the flicker of something deeper in her eyes. An unspoken story waiting to be shared. "Why are you really doing this?" he finally asked, his voice steady but laced with curiosity. "What's driving you to blackmail me?" Claire froze mid-pace, a shadow crossing her expression, as if the question had uncorked a bottle of emotions she had long suppressed. She took a deep breath and considered his words. "You really want to know?" she replied, a hint of vulnerability breaking through her tough exterior. Jason nodded, filled with a mix of concern and intrigue. "I didn't always live like this," she started, her voice faltering slightly. "There was a time when I believed in justice, when I thought I could make a difference." She paused as painful memories flickered behind her eyes. She continued, sharing how she had once been an idealistic law student, driven by the desire to help others and to fight against corruption. But a betrayal by those she trusted crushed her dreams, leading her down a dark path filled with broken promises and lost faith. "I watched as everything I believed in crumbled," she admitted, looking away toward the window as if trying to find solace in the night sky. Jason felt an ache of empathy swell within him. He recognized their shared sense of loss. "And now you resort to blackmail?" he pressed gently. "It's not what I wanted," Claire said sharply, but then softened again. "But I've learned that sometimes you have to break the rules to survive. The system isn't fair, and I need that item we're after. It's my ticket to finally setting things right." Her words hung heavily in the room. For a moment, Jason was silent, absorbing her story. It dawned on him that her motivations were rooted in pain, just like his own struggles with regret and failure. This revelation only deepened his attraction. He saw beyond the walls she had built around herself and recognized the scars they both carried. "I get it," he finally said. "You're trying to reclaim what was taken from you." They exchanged glances that spoke volumes. Each fight, Each struggle had shaped them into who they were now. In that moment of vulnerability, Jason felt a shift within him. Their mission no longer felt purely transactional. It was intertwined with deeper purpose, a way for Claire to heal, and perhaps for him as well. As they returned to their planning amid piles of blueprints and strategies, both were aware that this journey was about more than just retrieving an item. It was about finding redemption. Stamped beneath their shared pasts, Jason and Claire forged deeper into their mission. A sense of camaraderie began to blossom between them. Trust was slowly building, nurtured by shared confessions and close calls that had forced them to rely on one another. They became an effective team, blending his combat skills with her cunning and resourcefulness. However, just as he started to lower his guard, a twist emerged that would threaten everything they had built. One evening, while reviewing surveillance footage in a dimly lit cafe, Jason noticed something peculiar in the corner of the screen. A fleeting image of Claire meeting with someone in a dark alley. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up as he replayed the clip, struggling to reconcile what he saw with the woman he was beginning to trust. Was she setting him up? His heart raced as he confronted her later that night in their temporary hideout. "I saw you," he said, his voice low but edged with tension. "Who were you meeting?" Claire's expression shifted from surprise to defensiveness. "It wasn't what you think," she insisted, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and frustration. "Then tell me what it was," Jason pressed, feeling a blend of betrayal and confusion rise within him. He had allowed himself to be vulnerable, and now it felt like the ground was shifting beneath his feet. After a moment's hesitation, Claire sighed deeply, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of the world rested upon her. "I was meeting someone who has information about the item we're after. Information that could help us." Jason studied her face closely, searching for any hint of deception. "And why didn't you tell me? What else are you hiding?" She looked down, guilt flickering across her features. "Because I knew you wouldn't approve. This isn't just about retrieving something valuable. It's about dismantling a network that destroyed my life." Her voice trembled slightly as she continued. "I thought maybe, if I could gain your trust first, I could convince you to help me take them down." The air thickened with tension as Jason processed her words. The complexity of Claire's intentions unfolded before him. What had initially seemed like a straightforward retrieval mission was now layered with moral ambiguity and personal vengeance. He felt torn between admiration for her resolve and concern for the lengths she was willing to go to achieve her goals. Could he align himself with her quest for retribution? As doubts crept into his mind, Jason recognized that this new revelation not only intensified their mission but also complicated his feelings for Claire even further. They were no longer just two people caught in a dangerous game. They were potentially stepping into a moral quagmire where right and wrong blurred together. The stakes had suddenly risen beyond mere survival. This journey could change both their lives forever, but at what cost? The tension had been building for weeks, and as the day of their climactic confrontation arrived, Jason and Claire prepared for what could be the defining moment of their partnership. In a dimly lit warehouse, where shadows danced across the walls, they gathered intel on the network that had caused Claire so much pain. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation. They both knew this was not just about retrieving an item anymore. It was a personal battle against those who had wronged them. As they moved through the rundown building toward their target, the stakes felt impossibly high. With each step, Jason's heart raced, not only for the mission but also for Claire. He couldn't shake the feeling that this would test their bond to its limits. "Are you ready for this?" he asked, glancing over at her as they approached a heavy steel door that led to the inner sanctum of their enemies. Claire met his gaze with determination, though there was a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. "We have to be," she replied firmly. "This isn't just about me anymore. It's about taking back control." They pushed through the door and were met with an unexpected sight. Armed guards and a sense of chaotic urgency filled the room. Jason's instincts kicked in. He quickly took cover behind a stack of crates, signaling for Claire to do the same. "We need to create a diversion," he whispered. As they executed their plan, adrenaline surged through them both, and moments turned into a flurry of action. They fought fiercely side by side, relying on each other's strengths as bullets whizzed past them. In one heart-stopping instant, Claire found herself pinned down by two guards. Without thinking, Jason rushed to her aid, disarming. One of them with swift precision before turning to help her up. "Thanks," she breathed out between gasps, her trust in him deepening even further. But just as they thought they were making headway, an unexpected figure emerged from the shadows, the mastermind behind it all. Marco, a man from Claire's past who held all the leverage and secrets that could either break or save them both. "I knew you'd come crawling back." Marco sneered at Claire. "You're too emotional to think clearly." Jason stepped forward protectively. "You don't get to manipulate her anymore." The confrontation escalated into a volatile standoff. Emotions ran high as truths were revealed and loyalties tested. It was no longer just about survival. It had become deeply personal that as they faced Marco together, Jason realized that this moment would determine not only their immediate fates, but also the future of their bond. With everything hanging in the balance and danger lurking at every turn, Jason and Claire stood united. Two warriors fighting not just against external threats, but also for their right to reclaim their lives, and perhaps redefine what they meant to each other in the process. The dust began to settle after the chaotic confrontation with Marco. Jason and Claire emerged battered but unbroken. The resolve in Claire's eyes had shifted. They were no longer just two partners entangled in a dangerous game. They had become something more. Two individuals forged together by shared pain, adrenaline, and fierce determination. But as they stepped outside into the cool night air, Jason knew the real battle was just beginning. "Are you all right?" he asked, concern etched on his face as he examined her for any signs of injury. "I'll be fine," Claire replied, catching her breath. But her expression was tumultuous, a mix of relief and uncertainty clouding her features. "But we need to talk about what happened." Jason nodded, tension coiling in his chest. They found a secluded corner of the parking lot, illuminated only by the faint glow of streetlights. "Claire, Before he could finish, she cut in. "I know I put you in a terrible position. Blackmailing you wasn't my intention. I thought I could make you trust me along the way." The honesty in her voice was disarming. "It's more complicated than that," Jason said, struggling with his feelings. Part of him admired her tenacity and the strides she made to take control of her life. Yet, he couldn't ignore how her actions had dragged him into this morally gray world. "When I thought we could take down Marco and the network together, it felt empowering," she continued. "But then I saw how far you're willing to go for me. I don't want my past to ruin your future." Jason took a deep breath, wrestling with conflicting emotions. He had grown to care for her deeply. But could he fully trust her motives? What if we could find a way to do this, together, without being drawn into vengeance? "I don't want to lose you." Claire's gaze softened as realization dawned on her. "You're right. This isn't just about revenge for either of us. It's also about healing from those wounds." He could see the walls she had built around herself beginning to crumble, mirroring his own struggle with vulnerability and trust. "Then let's focus on moving forward," he said. "We can hold each other accountable without sacrificing who we are." Standing so close that he could almost feel her heartbeat synchronizing with his, Claire nodded. "I want redemption too, Jason, for both of us." With newfound clarity, they embraced, their worlds intertwined not just through danger, but through a shared purpose and understanding. Jason knew decisions lay ahead that would challenge them both. However, for the first time in what felt like years, he felt the weight of past regrets lifting slightly. Together, they would confront not only external threats, but also the complexities of their own hearts, finding a way to redefine their relationship in a landscape still filled with challenges and remnants of pain. They were stepping forward, not just as allies, but as two souls seeking healing amidst chaos. In the aftermath of their confrontation with Marco, Jason and Claire stood embraced by the night, the weight of their shared experience lingering in the air. The battle may have ended, but the real work lay ahead. The journey toward trust, understanding, and redemption was just beginning. As they walked side by side, the city lights twinkling in the distance, Jason reflected on what had brought them to this moment. Trust had been a fragile construction between them, built on shifting sands of secrets and uncertainty. Yet here they were, having faced their demons together. He couldn't help but ponder the moral complexities that surrounded them. Had they crossed too many lines for the sake of revenge? "Do you think we can really move forward from this?" Claire asked, breaking the silence as her heart remained heavy with doubt. Jason considered her question. "It won't be easy," he replied, his voice steady. "We'll need to be honest with each other about our feelings and our pasts." He glanced at her and found not just vulnerability but also strength in her expression. "This entire journey has forced me to confront who I am and what I want," she admitted. "I've hurt people along the way while trying to seek justice. I don't want to carry that guilt forever." "That guilt," Jason said, his tone thoughtful, "is something we all face at some point, but it's how we deal with it that defines us." His remark hung in the air, a reminder that human relationships are rarely clear-cut and that morality often exists in shades of gray. They paused near a quiet park bench, its surface still warm from the day's sun. They sat down together. Jason took Claire's hands in his own, a simple yet powerful gesture signifying their connection. "Let's not lose sight of who we are," he urged. "Let's make a choice every day to be better than our pasts." Claire's eyes searched his for assurance. "You really think we can come out on the other side?" "I believe we can," he replied confidently, squeezing her hand. "But we have to be willing to fight, for ourselves and for each other." As they shared a moment of silence, the weighty themes of trust and morality settled around them like an embrace. They had both been tested repeatedly, but in those trials, they had also discovered profound truths about themselves and about one another. With newfound determination igniting their spirits, Jason and Claire resolved to redefine not just their relationship, but also their paths moving forward. This chapter may have drawn to a close, but they were ready for whatever awaited them, standing united against both external forces and their own inner battles as partners seeking growth amidst chaos. Through trust and commitment, they hoped to build a future unencumbered by the shadows of their past, a testament to resilience and the enduring strength of human connection.